In this video, I'm going to walk you through the different variables when it comes to quotes, whether that's access fees, optional line items, kind of miscellaneous products in ArcSight, and walk you through what we can and can't price and really what your options are. I recommend once you get a hold of your iPad, whether you're watching these videos on your iPad or on your computer, getting on ArcSight, playing around with it. You can watch these videos all day long, but until you're actually in front of the screen, playing around with it, doing measurements, that's when you get comfortable with it. That's what allows it to become muscle memory because you're getting repetitions on it. I'm going to show you the different product offerings that you can mess around with on ArcSight. Say there is a scenario where there's some serious sloping going on and the customer's like, hey, I want to grade all this out. I want a retaining wall. What you would do is you essentially go into additional removal. Say it is 7 to 8 inches. We'll add it in this section. Finish. Boom. It got added. Now let's say we're wanting to do the retaining wall 3 feet. So we have the retaining wall here. Not anything too fancy on the rendering that's going to blow you away. Boom. It's been added. So say we're doing the extra demo here, adding the 3-foot retaining wall. Now we can add other miscellaneous products. Say you want to do some stepping stones. Let's make these to scale. So say we're doing a 12 by 12 pad. Say they kind of want to do that in the middle of the yard. Something cool that you can do if you want it the exact same size, you can hit duplicate. Boom. Got another one there.
I'm going to go through here and kind of do like a little path. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to make it pretty. I'm just showing you the different items we can add in here.
Not the best spacing, but you get the idea. Stepping stone path. And say they want to do a little concrete section. So let's go here. We're going to go draw. Let's just draw like a little perimeter right here. See, we didn't like that. We're going to run it back. You saw me click the back arrow. That's good enough. We drew this little outside perimeter area. We can go into products, concrete installed with rebar. Boom, add that in. We've got a little concrete outside. Again, you can really get as custom as you want. Let's say they want to have a little area in the back here, or they just want to do a little something like this. Not sure what I'm going for there, but say they want to do rocks. Fill that in. Boom, rocks. See, we're really getting super custom here. Not sure I would ever want my backyard looking like this, but you can if you want it to. And you see all the different products in here. And again, the best way to get comfortable with this is just playing around with it. Get in here, making different mock quotes. One other thing too is if say there is quite a big slope kind of leading it down, you can just click an area, fill it in. I'd probably recommend for the sake of the aesthetic of this, maybe if you were to add the concrete after the fact, just so it's kind of up there. Because once you add one of these additional costs, it's going to populate as the top layer. So I normally say any of these, put that first, and then add the other products. So we're going to go into reports. That's all good. Rock insulation. Let's say we want to go white rock. All right, it's all in there. The additional removal, 7 to 8 inches. The slope fee, 49 square feet. We have the turf, the golf cups, putting green turf. We have the 8 feet of the retaining wall, 6 stepping stones, 98 square feet of the concrete rebar. I definitely did add that twice because that was not 100 square feet. 24 square feet. And something I can show you too is if you did add something twice, like the concrete. So we'll click this, it's on the concrete, we can delete it. Click the area again, slope fee, we can delete that. And then boom, we have that original layer of concrete in there. And then we pop back to reports. And now the concrete 49, that's the correct amount of square footage there. You see how I just deleted it, simple as that. Another thing you're gonna run into too, and I imagine this is more of a concern in California or say some of the Western states where more folks do have turf, is there's going to be a turf removal and disposal fee. So that's something you just click on the area, add it in. Again, like I said earlier, any of these custom ones, you're going to want to add those first so you can add the turf and everything on top of it. Just give it that like green look to it. All right, let's remove that. Let's go back to that last layer of turf removal. We'll delete that. And now, like I showed in that previous video, if this is something where you don't have the time to put together the polished quote yet, and you want to go through it with the customer, you're like, hey, read through the line items. Hey, we're looking around 9,600, give or take. I still got to make sure everything's included in there, but that's around the ballpark of what we're looking at. Give your pitch. Now we're going to go ahead and push this to Jobber. Export other reports, PDF from a template. Next. Yes. Now, something to know. When you push something to Jobber and you didn't duplicate the ArcSite, it's going to delete the original quote that we put together in the first video, the putting green video. Since I'm pushing something to Jobber, it's going to delete that original quote. The only way to avoid that is by duplicating the ArcSite drawing, and it'll send you a different quote. So let me give you an example. Done. Push it to Jobber. Yes. But first, before we pop over there, what we can do is we can click duplicate, and then we have the additional drawing where you could go in there and make all these other changes if they want multiple quotes. The purpose of this is so if you push this one to Jobber, you're not deleting that original quote. It'll populate as its own quote. So just something for you to know there. Let's pop over to Jobber. All right, so we're in test client here. I did already duplicate that existing ArcSite. Like you see how there's 3 in there. I duplicated this one and then pushed it to Jobber. That's why it says publish. So there are the 2 separate quotes in here, kind of what I was just talking about. So we've got that in here. All the line items, it's all looking good. So that's when you'd go in and you can add your photos, your artificial grass installation. You're going to add your turf line items. Now, I'm not going to spend much time editing this quote because I already showed you how to put things together. I'm just going to throw this together real quick. Of course, you put it in the correct order. Like, for instance, we're going to remove that, clean it up. So we have the retaining wall. Maybe throw a photo of a retaining wall and you pulled from Google that's similar to this scope of work. Pull in some photos of the stepping stones. Again, all these things, the more photos you add, the more detailed you are, the better your presentation. You don't want to spend 2 hours in the car typing this up, doing a super polished quote for just that simple proposal presentation. If you go through the ArcSite scope with them and they're like, let's move forward, hop in the car. Obviously, you're going to take the time to put it together because you already have that guaranteed, let's move forward. But this is more so when you're back at the house, say between appointments, you pulled over, you're at a coffee shop, putting everything together. That's when you're going to spend the time to really polish this thing up. This is something very important to know. If you have a background in landscaping and you come into this role, your knowledge might hurt you in a sense of recommending too many products that are going to price you out of the job. For example, say you're competing with, Chuck and a Truck Turf Company. They get out there, they look at the yard and they say, yeah, 200 square feet, here's the price. You get out there, say you are very knowledgeable, and you're like, we're going to have to, in order for this to work, we're going to have to grade this. We have to do a retaining wall to keep all of this in here. We're going to have to charge extra to remove these stepping stones. All these additional items, they're going to add up. And when the customers have the quotes side by side, if you didn't review it with the husband and wife or both parties, say the husband sends it over to the wife sees it and like, oh, there's so much more. Obviously, we're going to be more because the scope of work isn't in line. I like to give them optional line items. So let's say the concrete. Say they didn't know if they wanted to do the concrete. Mark is optional. So now it removes it from the total price. I'll go ahead and save that. So the customers going through this, they could say, oh, I do want to include that. They could check it. I'm not in the customer view, so it's not letting me click it. But these are ways where you can still price the simple turf project, but the add-ons are like, hey, just throw that in there. Tell me how much that'll cost. You can mark all of these as add-ons. So the reason for doing that, like I said, is so you're not pricing yourself out of the job. But say the customer wants to go the cheap route and they want to just do the turf, and say there is an issue down the road because we didn't install that retaining wall. We have that ammunition where we can say, hey, we priced this out properly for you. You didn't want to move forward with the optional line items. We tried to price it out correctly from the jump. So we'd love to give you a price to do this as a second project, but this is, not covered under the labor warranty. And this is me not prepping you on, hey, issues are going to come up. But obviously, if you know the correct way to go about this project and the customer doesn't want to fit that into the budget, there are probably going to be issues that come up. And having optional line items kind of covers you in that situation. And of course, you're going to go through here. You're going to add your images. You're always going to click your reviews. You're going to add your ChatGPT photo in there with the introduction, kind of a transformation of the area. Same concept as the original video, putting together the quote, but this is really getting into the weeds with all the additional items we can include in there and how you can pitch them as optional line items. Again, did want to reiterate any items that the customer says, throw that in there. Tell me how much extra would be to include that. Always do optional line items. If it's something you know they need, but they're not really having it, or say they had other three quotes and, oh, so and so, they didn't mention that at all. They didn't say that was needed. Throw it as optional. You're going to price yourself out of the job. Us pricing the job right separates us from other contractors. But in the same sense, it can also hurt us if we price it out. Again, we're going to be pricing ourselves out of all these jobs. So you have to approach it in a little more strategic way than you would think.